Perfect. Now I have your number. Thanks.
Hey, I'm Robbie Kramer. You're listening to the Leverage Podcast, where we discuss using your social skills to hack dating, travel, finding your dream job, and becoming a complete man. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. As you know, I'm always looking for new ways to leverage your social skills and use that to influence your attraction, how you perceive to women, how to make more money, how to get ahead. And today we have a very cool guest who's extremely successful. His name is Cheyene. No, I said that wrong.
Shaahin.
Shaahin. Sorry, and he is the man behind the story, the inventor of one of the biggest designer drugs of the 90s, made over $1 billion while at it. He's got a new All-American Rags to Riches book, Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. And he tells a story of his wild journey, which I can't wait to hear. In the 90s, he invented Herbal Ecstacy, created over $1 billion in revenue. Then he went on and invented digital vaporization and was the innovator behind the vape and vaporization wave. He founded the first publicly traded vaporizer company called Vapier. And present, he's a leading Amazon and e-commerce expert and thought leader, speaking to thousands on how to start predictable recurring revenue streams on the Amazon platform, which is awesome. And I can't wait to hear more about all this cool shit you've done, man. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Robbie.
So tell us, like, how do you look like a pretty young guy. How old were you when you kind of got into business, and what was your kind of upbringing, and did you always have like an entrepreneurial style mindset about you, or tell us?
Yeah. So I'm 46 now.
Mm-hmm.
I started as a kid. Actually, if we want to roll back, I came from Iran. I was born in Iran. And we came to this country as refugees, didn't speak a word of English, excuse me. And we moved to this country. I quickly learned that money was going to be a very important thing. And coming from the third world, you tend to not realize what a cool place America actually is until you're actually there. It's one of the few places, I believe, still to this day, where even with very little resources and even with the most dire of circumstances, you can still do amazing things. You can achieve great achievements. And America is one of those countries where it's very rare. I think it's in the history of humanity, the level of opportunity that we have has never been done before. So we came here. I was a kid, was about 5 years old, and dropped into a school which everybody hated us because I was Persian, Iranian, and it was during Iran-Contra and the whole terrorism thing. And I got my ass kicked every day in school. Yeah. And I realized that I was going to have to start doing something to bring myself up. So initially, I decided to start a little criminal enterprise in my adolescence. I'm going to drink a little water here. And so I got together all the kids in the school that seemingly had something wrong with them. The outcasts, the misfits, the kids that nobody wanted to hang out with. We had a kid who was handicapped. We called him the handy-capable. We had another kid who was a little person. We called him the midget, and he was a little Greek kid. And there was just a bunch of us. We looked like a really motley crew of discontents and just bizarre people. And what we would do is we would go into the liquor stores. We would go into the little local stores, and we would create a distraction. Now, the little Greek kid was tiny and he was cute, and he'd wear very baggy clothes, and he'd start to take the little bottles of liquor, stuff them in his clothes, nudie magazines, whatever he could. And we created a business in the school that flourished. Now, the thing that I learned during this pivotal period for me is that while I was very good at making money and very good at getting people to give me their allowances for nudie magazines, alcohol, glue, whatever it was we were selling at that time, I was really bad at crime. And the people around me were even worse than me. And I remember sitting in detention thinking to myself, fuck, man, we're in detention and I'm selling stuff to people in detention. And I'm a little kid.
Yeah. How old were you? This is pretty.
I grade school, man. Grade school.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And just remembering to myself, man, we get caught every time. Is this normal? Is this normal for crime? This should not be normal for crime. I feel like I've watched so many shows and people get away with crime, but not us. And I grew up to be 15 years old and watch the world around me change dramatically. I saw big development in Los Angeles. We were in a big building boom, and LA was in a period of prosperity. And my family, who was solid, poor, lower middle class, my dad worked at a pizza store and then he worked at a dry cleaners. We never bought new clothes. I never ate at a restaurant. And I remember looking around me, seeing like fancy cars and fancy houses and this little neighborhood that my folks had bought a house in had gentrified. And I remember thinking to myself, dude, I want to achieve that level of wealth. So I went to my folks and I said, hey, how do I get that? And they thought about it for a second. They laughed, kind of chuckled and said, well, you have to be a doctor. It's the only way. For immigrants, for anybody who's an immigrant, you'll know that the height, the pinnacle of success for anybody who's an immigrant is to become a doctor or maybe a lawyer. That's a few steps down. And that's the highest achievement they could think for their kids. And I said, all right, well, sign me up for that. I want all that stuff. And they said, well, go talk to Mr. Ironi across the street. He's doctor. He lives fabulous life. Go learn. I was like, all right. So I walk next door and I see this dude and he's fucking bald and fat. And he must have been all of 40. And, the wife is fat. The kids are fat. Everyone's fat in this house. And like, yeah, he's got a big house. But I'm like, dude doesn't own that house. And I talked to him a little bit. He doesn't own his car. And he leaves the house at 5 a.m. He comes back at 8 p.m. Nothing wrong with hard work, but he's just slaving. And his health is questionable. And his family relationship is questionable. And I said, dude, I'm fucking out. Like, if that's how it is, I'm going to go chill on the beach. So I headed out, left behind my friends, my family, everything. And excuse me. And I just left to seek my fame and fortune. I had read the books of successful people. And I thought, you know what? Like, I'm going to go find my fame and fortune. And at this time,
just to interject for a second, I can relate a lot because I had so many Persian friends growing up. I'm Jewish, and Jewish parents, Persian parents, very much the same. You got to become a doctor or a lawyer, well-respected job. You got to get all A's, and you got to, go out and get that job and work long hours and slave away. And I grew up next door to first generation Armenian kids. And, I saw the same sort of trend happening and the same sort of mindset really being pushed on all of us kind of going through grade school and middle school. And, most of those guys that sounded very similar to the upbringing you have, a lot of them did become, they went on to be doctors and lawyers. And I look at them now, and a lot of them are like terribly overweight. They don't look very happy. They're barely like you said, they're not owning their house or their cars. And, all that promise of becoming this certain cookie cutter thing wasn't necessarily the correct path. So it's that had to be really tough, especially, with the pressure and leaving. So,
yeah, they found the fucking hamster wheel.
They did.
They thought they found the prize, but they just got
Mm-hmm.
a gold hamster wheel.
Yep.
Yeah. So from there, the rave scene was happening in Los Angeles, and I got involved in the electronic music scene, the rave scene. I found a mentor at a community college. I was sleeping on the beach. I figured out a way to let's say, borrow abandoned buildings and be able to sleep in them at night. And I realized that I wanted to make money. I realized that, man, like I've been out here for a while. It's time for me to make money. And at that time, I started looking at the rave scene as what was around me as, man, there's money being made, but who's making that money? It wasn't the club promoters. It wasn't the real estate owners. Most of the time, it was the drug dealers. So I thought, dude, that's it. Easy, fast money, big wealth. You get the fancy cars, you get the beautiful girl, you get all that stuff. Let's do that. And then I got hit in the head like with a pile of bricks, metaphorically. And I remembered back to how bad I was at crime. I thought to myself, dude, like, if you repeat the mistakes of the past, you'll get what you got then. Like, you're really bad at crime. You should not be doing crime. There's people that are good at crime. Let them do crime. You should not be doing crime. And so I thought, fuck, man, but it was such a good idea. I was already like driving the car and like I had it in my mind. And it occurred to me, what if I could take ecstasy, the most popular rave drug of the time, the supply had dried out, and make it legal, make it natural, use herbs and sell that. Dude, I would blow up. So I managed to get myself a girlfriend. Her father was some stuffy job. He was a superintendent of some school district. And I managed to convince her to let me in through the back door as he left through the front door. And what I would do is I would cook up prototypes in her kitchen the second dude left, and we would try them on the neighborhood teenagers. All day, I'd be cooking up prototypes, and I didn't have enough money to buy the machine to make capsules. So I'd be rolling up herbs by hand, trying to make them look like pills and drying them in the oven. Until one day, we got a formula that worked, figured out how to make them look like pills. They tasted terrible. It was these goof-filled things, but they fucking worked. And I got the crazy idea that I was going to walk into the club and everybody was going to love me and they were just going to buy the pills and everything would be happy thereafter. So I put them in little baggies, just like drug dealers would do. I walked into the club, walked up to the scariest drug dealer you've ever seen in your life, tats on his face. Fucking dude was like crazy. And now remember, this is the 90s. So when we talk about tattoos on the face, in the 90s, it was a thing. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have tattoos on your face, they call you Post Malone. You get a Twitter account. You get you're platinum selling artist. Back then, you were shunned from society for having tattoos on your face. People would not let you indoors if that was the case. And this man had tattoos on his face. He was a beast of a human being. And he had the 3 little things on his eyes, which I think means you killed someone in prison or something. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking up to him and him looking at me and going like, sorry, man, I don't have anything to sell today. I'm all out. I said, no, I'm not a customer. Don't want to buy. He said, fuck you. Are you a cop? What are you, fucking cop? I said, nope, definitely not a cop. Do I look like a cop? I'm not even 16. I'm not a cop. He goes, okay, well, what the fuck do you want? And I said, hey, man, I know you're out of product. Why don't you sell this? And he's staring at me. His bodyguards are staring at me. His girlfriends are staring at me. I'm inside one of the biggest clubs, underground clubs in Los Angeles, talking to one of the biggest drug dealers. And it occurred to me, Shaahin, now would be a good time for you to leave. Apologize and leave. But I looked down at my feet, Robbie, and they were glued to the floor. I could not move them for whatever reason it was. And he said, what's this shit? And I said, I know what it is. Herbal ecstasy. Just made it up on the spot. And he said, herbal ecstasy. He said, and just in that moment, 2 partygoers walked up to him, cash in hand. He had nothing to sell them. And he looked at me. I was sweating bullets in front of this guy, but I wasn't moving. I was intent. My eyes locked on his. He grabbed the entire backpack. Said, come back in 2 hours. You better not be fucking with me. Don't leave the club. He started selling the pills. This was the longest 2 hours of my life. I didn't know if this guy was going to kill me. I was thinking, man, I'll wash his car, shine his shoes, whatever he wants. If he doesn't kill me, how do you get a guy not to kill you? I kept thinking about it. I was like, he must be a nice guy. I was looking at his face, trying to see if he smiled or not. This guy did not smile. 2 hours goes by. I'm walking up to him, motions for me to come up to him, and I'm thinking of every excuse in the world. But I notice around him, people are dancing and having a good time, and he does not seem to be so upset. And he stares at me and he says, kid, when can you get me more?
Nice.
And that was it. It went from one guy to 10,000 guys to 100,000 guys, clubs all over the world. We were selling in the best clubs in the world, all the drug dealers selling it, all of them legitimizing their businesses, opening up franchises, getting territories. And I'm still a teenager.
Can I ask a question real fast?
Yeah.
So I have definitely done my fair share of real ecstasy, and I didn't even know herbal ecstasy existed, let alone how the hell did you make it? Like, that's, did you have like a background in chemistry, or like, it's so fascinating to me. And why have I never been offered it? I didn't start like dabbling in those sorts of things until around 2012, I'd say. So, yeah.
That's probably why. Yeah. The key ingredients were restricted, I believe, in the late 90s. So it was probably well before your time. We're talking early to mid 90s. The product was out there in the marketplace. To answer your first question is no, I didn't have a degree in chemistry, but I had a degree in never fucking quitting. I had a degree in not taking no for an answer. And that's really what I did, man. I went out there, I got books, I read as much as I could, I talked to as many people as I could, and I learned. I learned through trial and error how to make something like that. I bought ingredients. I went to Chinatown. I didn't have any money. I talked people into giving me the ingredients. I talked people into helping me figure out how to solve this problem. And nobody told me that I couldn't do it. Now, I'm sure people said it. I just didn't fucking hear them. And at the end of the day, all that mattered was that one moment where I succeeded in what I was trying to do. It was that one moment of success that was like, you know what? I fucking did it. This works. And I know what to do from here. That's all that matters.
Crazy. So you were able to just, with herbs, figure out a way to create that same sort of like, ecstasy feeling, buzz, high, whatever you want to call it. That's crazy. And so, and then, what happened? Why did they made that illegal?
Yeah, they banned the main ingredient. One of the key ingredients was ephedra, and that was banned, somewhere I think in the 90s. They didn't allow the sale of that anymore. And look, I don't espouse anybody to take anything without talking to their doctor. Everybody who's listening to this should listen to their doctor. But I felt, for me, it was a very safe ingredient. We never had an issue, and so I'll fast forward. I'm now, late teens, and I have a collection of exotic cars, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, all that stuff. I'm sleeping maybe 2 hours, sometimes in the factory, sometimes at my office. I have 200 employees. All of Venice Beach is employed by me. Everywhere you go, you see Ecstasy shirts. We have over 30,000 retail stores carrying our product. Larry Flint is selling them at the Hustler stores, Warehouse Music, Tower Records, back in the day when people bought records at record stores, New Age bookstores, regular bookstores, Urban Outfitters, 7-Eleven. Everywhere you go, our product is there. And I had fallen asleep in the passenger area, like leaning over to the passenger area of my Lamborghini. Drooling on the seats, not a good look. And my alarm went off. I woke up. I was like, oh crap. All right, let me walk into my office. I stumbled into my office and everybody was pale face white. My receptionist was just scared. And I said, what the fuck's going on? And she said, well, all those cars outside, all those people taking pictures, it's for you. The news broke that you had broken $1 billion in revenue. We had made $1 billion pre-internet, pre-social media, pre-Facebook, pre all that stuff. Sam Donaldson with Nightline was outside wanting to interview me. Montel Williams wanted me on his show. LA Times, New York Times. We had 2 Newsweek covers, People Magazine, you name it, we were in it. We were the it thing, and everybody wanted me on. And I remember thinking to myself, my first thought, holy shit, I don't fucking know how much $1 billion is. How much is $1 billion actually? And then my second thought, Robbie, was, fuck, does this mean I need to hire an accountant? And I learned very quickly, and this is good for you to make a note of, that accountants do not like to be the guys, and they are not the guys that will count the money in duffel bags piled up in the room of your office building. That is not what accountants do. And I learned that the hard way, interviewing several of them and then learning that they do not count duffel bags stuffed with cash. But that was
right there. They're supposed to count money, accounting, right?
you would think so, my friend. You would think
they wear that little hat with the the see-through with the brim, and they got their little calculator.
That's right.
Yeah, I can see why someone with an advanced degree in accounting wouldn't want to do that, but yeah.
And that was the day. And from there, I went on to inventing all the technology for the vape here, digital vaporization. All the vape technology that you see now was born out of technology that I developed back then. And from there, I noticed that this little guy, you might know his name, Jeff Bezos, had started this website called Amazon. And back in those days, Bezos was very accessible. You could email him, you could call him, and eventually you'd get a hold of him or someone close in his staff. We heard through the grapevine that he was opening up his third-party platform to third-party sellers to sell anything that they wanted to. So I thought, man, cool. I had designed a new product, a new supplement, a brain pill, a nootropic called Accelerol, and another one called Focus Plus. They're still available on Amazon. And I thought to myself, man, it would be cool if I could sell these on there. Let me put it up. So I put it up. It took 15 minutes back in those days. You didn't have to do anything. And I went to sleep. It was a $120 supplement back then, cheaper now. And I woke up to thousands of orders. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars for doing nothing. And I thought, holy shit, who the fuck is this guy? So when I looked a little closer and I was like, man, this is no dummy. This is not a little guy who is the Silicon Valley nerd who got lucky. This is one of the smartest guys in the room. This guy's bringing cheap money from Wall Street into Silicon Valley, and he's building the most disruptive e-commerce business ever. Since the Piggly Wiggly, nobody has disrupted retail, and he had done it. And so I decided to put all my chips in the Amazon basket, all the eggs in the Amazon basket, and I started learning how to master Amazon. And now I teach a course inspiring others to sell on the Amazon platform, make recurring revenue. And I've, at this stage, coached over 105 people to start from zero and to start successful Amazon businesses that are creating these recurring revenue streams month after month. And actually, Robbie, for anybody who's watching your show or watching this show, I'll offer my 1-hour course. It's normally $200 for free. So if people reach out to me, you can just email me directly. It's darkzess@gmail.com. I get through every single email. I'll respond to you personally and sign you up if you just mention Leverage and Robbie Kramer. I'll give you the 1-hour course for free. And anybody else who's interested is fbasellercourse.com. And for anybody who's interested more in my story about Herbal Ecstasy and that wild ride, my book is out now. It's called Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. And that's available on Amazon, and the audiobook dropped recently. So you can get it on Audible if anyone is interested in that.
Thanks for offering that to my listeners, first of all. And anyone listening to the show who's been listening, or if you're a new listener, really kind of understands the power of starting a side business. And like you said, leaving the sort of, golden, not even golden, handcuffs. They're like bronze handcuffs if you've got a 9-to-5 job of slaving away that you hate. There's such a fascinating story of how, first you were in crime as a kid, and then you became like a legal drug dealer, basically. And, the 90s or the rave period, like I graduated high school in 2001. And I remember as like a freshman in high school, all the beautiful young girls were like going up to LA and going to raves. And I even had a buddy who I think went to prison for selling ecstasy first, and then he ended up selling some other shit. And, that's another story. But, it's definitely one of the most your story is one of the most fascinating I've heard in a really long time. Tell me how like the effect on, like, what was the effect on your dating life? First of all, I know you said you had a girlfriend when you originally kind of got into that first, you came with the backpack, you sold it to the tattooed eye guy. What did all that fame kind of do to you socially, dating wise? Like, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, look, I look at dating like sales. Dating is effectively sales. It's a big impact. It's the biggest impact you can have on dating, and sales, in fact, is influence. And I always believed in pull marketing rather than push marketing. So Seth Godin, one of the great marketers, if you haven't checked out his books, definitely check out his book. He wrote a great book called Purple Cow, another one called Linchpin. He's prolific. Talks about how in marketing, how we've shifted from disruption marketing to permission marketing. If you think about it, back in the day, all we had was big soda companies being like, hey man, you want a fresh drink? You're like, no. Okay, well, I'll interrupt your show in 2 more minutes. In 2 more minutes. Hey man, you want a drink? You want a drink? You want a drink? Until people just either freaking bought the drink or got so pissed at it, they just went off and did something else. And the way things changed with the advent of the internet and digital marketing and mobile phones and kind of the way things are now is that permission marketing became the way to approach consumers. And Amazon, and I'm going to get to dating about this, but as Amazon developed, we started to learn that there is a language to influence. And every marketplace where you're in, either if you're in the dating marketplace, or if you're in the marketplace for goods, you're in the marketplace for services, each has its own language. And I know from what you've told me that you're an expert in dating language, and you and me had a brief conversation about the old school pickup artist guys who were doing that kind of stuff back in the day and how that's progressed. So I was in a unique situation. I had instant status because I was famous for a minute. And when you have that, money makes a big difference. And it's not really the quantity of money, but much more so just having access to it. As far as success goes in dating for men, and I can speak to men mainly. I think as far as women go, for the most part with men, it appears that appearance tends to be the majority factor. And that's just, people can argue with that. They can say it's politically incorrect, but it tends to be biologically accurate, in my opinion. And that's all I can speak to.
I agree.
As far as men go, it really comes down to status. And status is really something that you can break down into one of two things. Fame, and that fame can be in a microcosm. You ever seen somebody who's very famous in his own little tiny world, and you're like, oh, that's cute. You're like big in a really tiny place. Or it could be general fame. But females are much more attracted to fame than money. There's a lot of famous broke guys out there, believe it or not. A lot of guys that are famous in their own little world, and a lot of guys that specialize in holding court in a very small microcosm. And by doing that, when somebody enters into their microcosm, they are influenced by their fame, pull marketing, what we're talking about. In my case, I was famous in my own small little microcosm, but I was also always on TV. I would walk into places, and it's a crazy feeling when you walk into somewhere and everybody turns their head and they've seen you because you've been on the press and people know who you are, which led to no shortage of opportunities of females for me to date. But a real question about, were they genuine? Were they interested in me, or were they interested in my fame and my success and subsequently the money? And I had all different kinds of women like that in those days. So,
and I think a lot of women too, especially nowadays with Instagram, I think I heard this on a Dan Bilzerian interview where he said fame is the ultimate sort of attraction tool. And what's even better than that is the ability to make them famous. And I was like, wow, that's, that's another level of fame. So if you're famous enough where you can make them famous, which is essentially, you're Dan Bilzerian on Instagram and you post a tag of one of the girls you're hanging with, she's going to get, a few million followers from that. That's kind of the ultimate status. At the time, maybe that wasn't as prolific.
And look, I mean, I think it depends on what you're dating for, the reason why you're dating. If you're just looking to have fun and go out there and forge connections and just have like a good time, that's respectable. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you might be looking for a different type of partner. If you're looking to get married and have kids, if you're at that stage in your life, then that's a different thing. If you're looking to build legacy, then you got to do a lot more refinement of the tactics that you're using, where you're meeting women, why you're meeting a specific type of woman. And you got to put them through a test to make sure that they meet your values, which is one of the most important things, which doesn't really matter as much if you're just dating around, you're just having fun and you're there to, just forge human connections and have fun and just, do that kind of thing. But if you're looking to go deeper and to have a deeper connection with someone, and which there's no deeper connection than being a parent and having a child and living that life. If that, I'm a family guy now, so I don't date. I'm just a family guy. And that's been one of the most impactful, one of the most important things that I've ever done in my life. And I wouldn't give that up for anything. But when I was younger, it's a different story. And it's funny. I look at guys and I think to myself, man, like if they just knew that at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff comes down to just being authentic. A lot of it just comes down to being a real motherfucker. It comes down to you create an air of mystery about you. You create an air of status about you by just being real, by standing for something, by being a human being that's actually self-reflective. And people are attracted to that. People are attracted to others who seem to have a plan, of others that have looked back on their life and been like, man, my life is pretty fucking interesting. Or I've been a fucking asshole and I'm going to work on myself. And when you see people like that, they don't have to run game. They don't have to use a pickup line. They don't have to like, oh my God, do I like go out to this place at 7 p.m. because that's the highest volume of women and talk to them, but I'm only talking to the ones that do this and I'm going to peacock and I'm going to do this and do that. That's all bullshit. That's made to sell courses. What really matters is like, are you really a fucking interesting person? Because if you're not, you should work on that first.
Right.
And then everything you want comes. It's amazing. It's like money for me. I've always been really good at making money, not always good at keeping it. In recent years, I've developed this foundational system that I teach to people who are part of my Amazon course about how to diversify your money, how to put it in different areas, how to build out that Amazon business so it's creating recurring revenue without you having to sell your hours. Back in the day, I wasn't so good at doing that. That's why I made, over $1 billion in money, and I managed to keep some of it, but not as much of it as I would like to. But at the end of the day, you really have to think strategically about everything. And it really comes down to looking back at your life and reflecting, thinking back. And you'll notice too, the people in your life that are the most wise, the most cogent, the most clear are the ones that have done the deepest amount of self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And women, men, everybody find that attractive. That is the key. If I had to coach somebody on men, you want to go date, you want to get girls, you want to get guys, whatever it is you want to do, like I would forego all that other stuff. Like, yeah, sure, take a fucking shower and comb your hair, man. You know, like don't go out looking like a bum. But outside of that, work on yourself. Be authentic. And what a lot of people discover is that they don't know who they are, or who they think they are isn't who they are. So I tell people, find 5 to 10 people closest to you and go to them and say, hey, no judgment. We don't ever have to talk about it again. I just want you to tell me what you really think about me, positives and negatives. Then you just shut up and you listen. And you might hear something that you don't want to hear. And that's good.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Because at the end of that, you net a lot more. Sure, you can learn, patterns. I'm a student of NLP. I'm a student of hypnosis. I've been doing that for years and years, and language of sales and language of marketing. And we do it all the time. Our Amazon students are amazed at how we just change a little bit of copy about how their product listing is. And boom, all of a sudden it's gone gangbusters and they're selling hundreds of thousands of units. But you can get into that when you're communicating with other human beings. And yeah, it could work. Some people are more easily influenced than others. But at the end of the day, it's a gimmick. It's not real. What's real is what you have in here. What's real is this person that started rough, but is becoming more and more refined in time. And that's an asset that nobody can take away from you.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to a little bit what you were saying before, when it comes to marketing and sales and having a quality product. Like if you're the product, as you're in your dating life, you're the product. If you're not interesting, if you're a shit product, it doesn't matter how good the marketing is, how good the tactics are. You might have a few people buy you, but then you'll get returns. You'll get buyer's remorse. You need to go out and work on yourself and become a better product, a better version. And so my question is, if you had a really solid product when you started, using Amazon to sell it, it sounds like, something very unique and maybe first to the market. So people that don't have that, how do they kind of get involved, and how would they use, your course, or how does that work if they feel like they don't have anything, or maybe they have something, but they don't feel it's valuable enough? What's the kind of psychology and process there?
And we teach people how to do that all the time. Our philosophy basically breaks down into finding these super niches. So there's these ultra niche products that you can get involved in. And then we even teach people to go deeper and deeper into those niches. So you identify a niche, you spy on the competition, we funnel their traffic to our products. And then what we do is we go in and we dominate that niche. We build verticals. There's all types of super cool stuff that you can do. And you are in a much stronger position if you don't already have a product idea. Because the fact is, Robbie, in the early days, what I would do is I would develop a product and I would go out there and find a market for it. And it's fucking a slog. Mm-hmm. With Herbal Ecstasy, it was kind of a hybrid. I did it a little differently, and I learned very quickly that if you find the distribution, if you find the market and feed it what it wants, you don't have to educate the consumer anymore. You are in a far more powerful place. You're in a much stronger place than if you did it the other way around.
Yeah. And it's the old rule of marketing. I think it's find a niche, get rich. Don't find a niche, life's a bitch. There's a bunch of sort of ridiculous rhymes like that. But I remember just starting my coaching business. Our niche was literally like kind of a reaction against all the kind of pickup tactical stuff out there. There was a lot of stuff around, using different tactics, lines. NLP was big, hypnosis. And I tried all that shit. I was like give me the magic pill, give me the quick fix, give me what's going to work the fastest when I learned about this whole sort of pickup community, because I wanted the results. And I tried all that stuff and none of it really worked for me. What worked in the end of the day was being authentic and being real and and working on myself. And so
but that doesn't sell. Yeah, but that doesn't sell.
That's hard. It's long, it's slow, it's difficult. It's it takes effort, but no one wants to buy that. They want to buy the how to use 7 magic words to blast through female psychology and get any woman attracted to you. Right.
Right. Yeah. But it's, what it is. It's the TikTok culture of disruption is what it is. It's buying a fucking lottery ticket is better than working for a 5-year business that you can realize in 5 years. Why? Because it's a cop-out. As Chuck Palahniuk in his Fight Club book says, that we were promised we were going to be gods and all going to be gods and rock stars. And when they learned that wasn't true, there were a lot of angry young men. I'm paraphrasing in what that book is. And by the way, the book and the film, both amazing. And it's true. We've been lied to. And so when people realize that, man, it's not like I'm not going to be on a yacht with a jacuzzi and the bikini girls and the machine guns and all that shit, they resort to buying a lottery ticket. Why? Because it's a 1 in a billion chance. And they can say, I've done it. So when they see that ad pop up on TikTok or on Instagram, and the guy's got the Lambo in the background and the girls are there in the bikini, I don't mind the bikini girl and the Lambo. It's just, that's Tuesday for me. But, this is how you make money. Just buy my course. People buy it because it's a lottery ticket. And when they fail, they can say, yeah, I tried that, but it didn't work out. They bought the dream. They bought the promise. It's much easier than doing the work. When we teach people how to make money, when we teach people how to start businesses, I tell them, you probably are going to fail. And that's okay. I want my students going out there and trying for failure, because it's the only way you're going to succeed. And I will go even further than that and say you probably will fail. And there's the odd guy that will make it here and there by getting that winning lottery ticket. But for the most of us, you got to fucking get out there and hustle. I slept on the beach. I slept in the back seat of an abandoned car. I ate fucking top ramen. I ate hot dog, ketchup and relish for months and months and months just to survive, because it didn't matter, because I was willing to do whatever it takes. You have to be willing to do whatever the fuck it takes to succeed. And at the end of the day, it's not all black and white. It's not all I'm going to make it. Or I'm going to fail. It's incremental successes that lead to a much more refined and nuanced structure in your life where you have multiple streams of income, like you're doing. You invest a little bit in real estate. You invest a little bit in e-commerce business. Maybe you have a job, you're consulting, and that's what's bringing in the revenue. Maybe you're driving fucking Uber. No shame in that. No shame in doing Airbnb. No shame in doing Uber, being part of the gig economy. Whatever you have to do in order to build that foundation so you come from a place of strength. And then, maybe you contact me and we start an Amazon business for you. And then 2 years down the line, you're making $100,000 a month. Your Amazon business is going great. Your real estate's going great, all this stuff. And some fucking dude looks at you and goes, oh yeah, look at that fucking guy. He got really lucky.
Yeah.
And you're like, he got the lottery ticket. I got that too. I went on TikTok and I saw that guy. And that's the problem. It's the TikTok disruption culture where they shine shiny things. And it's easier culturally for people to buy the shiny things and pay a little bit of money and say, yeah, I tried that. Now I can quit.
I can go back to what I was doing, or,
Go back
try
to what
it.
I was doing. Yeah.
Try it a year later and buy another course or buy another lottery ticket and hope it's
Yeah.
super easy that time.
Top up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough because that's what we're marketed, the shiny pill or the shiny object or, magic pill. But it does take obviously hard work, no matter, because there's other people that are willing to put in that hard work, and that's your competition. So one last thing I wanted to ask about. So you said you have kids.
I've got a kid. I got a 8-year-old.
Oh, amazing. And what was, in terms of like dating, becoming a father, what was the process like for you when you when you were like, okay, I'm ready to settle down, I want to have kids? Was that like a very like clear cut sort of decision? Did you ever go through like a player stage, or how did the business success and the relationship stuff kind of like meld together to?
Yeah. So I was with a girl for a number of years. She turned out to be a train wreck, unfortunately. And moving out of that, I decided that, hey, man, I am now into the phase of my life, into my late 30s, where I want to build my legacy. And whatever females on this journey with me has to be similarly minded. And we have to share similar values. Very important to me that she had good parenting, which I think makes a huge difference, that she was raised right and brought up right, and that we shared similar values, similar cultural background. I'm Iranian, so I'd like my kid to speak Iranian and understand our culture. I think it's super important to understand where we came from. And so my criteria changed. I mean, I did date, and I had a lot of great relationships with a lot of great women, but none of them were quite there on all points until I met my wife. But for me, it was very clear what I wanted to do. I want to build legacy, and I wanted to be with a woman who was of that same mind, that we could grow together and grow a family. And that fact that she would be not only a great wife, but a great mother to our son, which is so important. Your mom is like probably the only person that will love you forever, no matter what. Right. And yeah, and so that was really the factors that I looked for. So you look a little bit differently as far as what you're looking for. Look, there's never going to be a woman that meets all of your criteria ever. Like it just doesn't happen. Right. But the fact is that people grow and people change, and you can compromise some things, but there's other things that are not negotiable. And in every relationship, I mean, I'm sure my wife has compromised a lot of stuff for me, but at the end of the day, the things that are not negotiable are your core values. And so you start looking at things of like, hey, does this person share my core values? Is this somebody that I can grow with and raise a family with? That's a very different outlook to, hey, dating around. Sure, that's fun, and that's great. And there's, again, no judgment. And I know I've got buddies that are still doing that, and they're 10 years older than me, and they're having the time of their life. And that's fine. But what they're not doing is building legacy.
Did that kind of happen for you? Like, did you get to a point where you're like, okay, I need to shift gears, and you just kind of got bored of the not doing that? Or was it more of like a smooth transition?
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're dating, you've got friendship, you've got personal closeness, you've got sex, you've got fun, and it's kind of that, right? So if you don't really, all that stuff's good, but eventually, if you're looking for more depth in your life, the main event is really having kids. And almost every female can have kids. Not every female can do it correctly. and be a
That's
good
very
mom.
true.
What I
Yeah.
mean. So finding that person who you could look at and say, man, this is going to be the perfect mother for my child is a completely different level of depth than, let's go out and have fun and, maybe we'll have sex and maybe we'll, like all that stuff is like, I mean, once again, you've kind of self-reflected, you've lived a certain amount of life, like all that stuff kind of loses its mystery. Like, going out on, conquest or like to try to date and try to, like there's guys that do that kind of stuff. And it's great, but I'll tell you, every single dude I know that's just out there trying to like increase their numbers and trying to do all that stuff, at the end of the day, they really are not happy. There's
No,
really
definitely
something missing
Yeah.
from their lives. And barring young guys. So like, if you're in your 20s or super, super young, then yeah, you should be out there having fun and not getting serious and working on your career. But, first and foremost, you should focus on your career, not girls. You should focus on making money. Girls will come. All that stuff comes, but you got to focus on your career. You got to focus on making yourself successful, because the last thing you want to be is a 30-something-year-old dude that got laid a whole lot, but is broke as fuck.
Yeah. That's definitely true. And when you do hit, 30, 31, 32, 33, that's really when women start to notice you anyways. And, the guys who are in their early 20s, mid 20s, and they're trying to really improve with dating, a lot of the time I tell them like, you can go out and you can approach women and you can do, work on yourself. But what's really going to make the biggest difference is getting a little bit older, getting a little bit wiser, a little bit more manly and masculine, and, building something. And that's when the floodgates will open in your 30s. And there's not a ton you can do in your like early 20s. You're better off really like focusing on building that, that train for a woman to kind of jump onto, or a wagon for her to hitch her whatever on. I don't know what that expression is, but yeah, I recently got engaged, and I was like the quintessential had to go out and sow the wild oats, and I did that for a really long time and found it, after enough like crazy casual sex and adventures, found it quite unfulfilling, and realized I was just kind of doing it for validation mostly. And yeah, it wasn't until I was about 37 that I was like, okay, I think I need to shift my focus a bit. It sounds like maybe for you it's kind of around that same age or a little bit earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think every person's different. Some people work better within a relationship, and some people are better to be lifetime players.
Yeah.
It's just at a certain point, it gets fucking old, man. There's no like, there's no end game to that. All right. So when you're like in your 40s, you can date girls maybe in like their 20s and 30s, and then then you're dating girls in their 30s and 40s, then you're dating girls in their 50s, and it's like,
and then you're a 60-year-old dating girls in their 20s, and you're that guy, and
you're that guy, that guy. But yeah, maybe you might have sex. If you have money, you'll get sex. Not that you're paying for sex, but that that status and finances can bring that. It has since the dawn of time,
right?
But is that what you want? Like, is that what you want? Or would you rather have a life full of family, full of love, full of, and that's a personal choice is what people have to decide. Some people feel very fulfilled without that. And some people really feel like they need that. For me, I feel like that's the main event. Like that's what we're here for. And I really feel pretty strongly about being able to impart legacy and leave the world a little bit better than we found it. And we do that through our progeny. We do that through building legacy and inspiring other people. And you don't have to have kids. You can mentor younger people. I do that as well. But really the best feedback loop, I think, is really having a kid, at least one.
Yeah. And seeing how that plays out, of course, it's like the ultimate, test of your own values and how you can influence this little creature going forward. So, Shaahin, it's been so awesome having you on. You dropped some incredible wisdom. Can you, again, tell people where they can find you, where they can find your course, how they can, get more of you?
Yeah, sure, guys. So subscribe to our show. It's called Hack and Grow Rich. We do a weekly show with my co-host Bart Baggett, and we have special guests on all the time. So you can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. It's called Hack and Grow Rich. You can check out my book, Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult, available on Amazon and everywhere books are found. The audiobook just dropped. If you're interested in making money on Amazon, reach out to me. darkzess@gmail.com. Mention Robbie Kramer or Leverage, or go to fbasellercourse.com. Just mention Robbie Kramer or Leverage, and we will give you the $200 course for free.
Awesome. Thanks so much for offering that again. And guys, check that out, especially if, you haven't dabbled in some other form of making money. I can't even begin to describe how my life changed when I, got out of my banking job that I despised and started looking for more creative and fun ways to make a buck. So Shaahin, thanks again for being on, and it's been awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening. If you want more, go to innerconfidence.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for the latest episodes.